We call it empathy at scale because it's not about trying to make people pay. It's really about how do you communicate with an individual customer the way that they will be most receptive to be communicated with. It's a combination of personalization and digital communications and empathy. And I think we got that point across. It's not just technology and it's not just personalization. It's really the combination that gets the best result.
There is a consumer environment that is changing as well. So the economic instability, the inflation is affecting consumers. Rate changes are kind of the last thing that people normally think about. They think about utilities as very steady and reliable and all the rest of that. And so when price increases, that can be very surprising. So we're seeing now that collections or delinquencies in utilities is going up by a lot. How they can get this money back, et cetera, without major impact and human costs.
The days of the 80s and 90s where you were going to somehow force a customer to pay you, those are gone. Those have been gone for decades now.
Finally, the digital transformation revolution is hitting the collection space. Both the transformation in communications with banks. I mean, a lot of people don't even walk into a bank anymore and are doing a lot of their communications with banks digitally. So it's a consumer preference type of issue. And it was really, it coincided with some of the economic impacts we saw during the pandemic, where when we were talking to our bank customers, a lot of them said, hey, we're not really that concerned about some of these programs. What we're more concerned about is stopping the credit card payments and the student loan payments, because at some point, people are going to have to pay those.
This is not the same collections environment as it was before the pandemic. The pandemic introduced a lot of free-flowing cash, impacted customers, gave them disposable income at a global scale that we've never seen before. And so what we're seeing now is that a lot of loans that were made or a lot of portfolios, right? All of those things have shifted in a way that customers that may not have gotten credit in the past or may have gotten lower lines now have lines that they are having a difficult time repaying because their credit score at the time they got the loan was based off of having all that extra cash. So there's a lot of customers who don't have the cash. And so things have to shift, and we've got to figure out a way, I think in a lot of cases, to have a better conversation.
It's very surprising when we go in and start to look at the delinquent account base and start to look at it from a segmentation point of view. It's not the same people you would think are in delinquency now, perhaps 20 years ago. It's not the deadbeats. It's folks that are just having a little bit of trouble and they need some advice and they need some help and they need some education on how to get out of that trouble.
Nobody starts out with the anticipation of being delinquent. Nobody's list of to-dos that day is go pick up the kids, drop them off at soccer practice, go delinquent on their utility bill, and then, come home. It's just not on a list of to-dos, right? It's because of all of these circumstances that I think Scott talked about a minute ago that are happening in the market. And so when you humanize this approach and come from a perspective of saying, hey, listen, our goal here is to retain a customer. Our goal here is to build a relationship. They only have $10 and they have $20 worth of things to pay. They're going to pay the company that connects with them, that helps them, and is there for them.
The utilities mission now has changed a little bit as well. So in the face of different kinds of customer demand, in the face of trying to help out with environment and how we power our homes and all the rest of that, utilities are now being looked at as kind of advisors in that space to help you use energy wisely, to help you understand what renewable options there are. At the same time, they've got that real humanitarian impact that they can have if they have to cut a customer off. I would think that they would be really appreciative of the advances in this kind of line of practice that allows them to take a way more humanist perspective.
Within the customer base, there's going to be folks who want to pay. There's going to be folks who need help and to understand what programs might be available to them. And then there are the folks who are really trying not to pay, and then you have to deal with them in a different way. And our goal is really to allow the human resources to deal with folks who are the most complex kind of cases and use some technology and some digital communications platforms and some personalization of those communications to get folks who would otherwise pay if you let it go for 25 days and then call them, get them to pay without having to call them. That's really what we focus on, so that we can free up resource to deal with the real complex problem. Certainly the ability to, go from less than 50% up to into the 90s in terms of promises to pay just by adopting some of these approaches should make everyone sit up and say, hey, what are we doing and how can we do some of this stuff better?
This is an opportunity to have better customer experience, better losses, and also save on expenses because, like Scott said, you can focus people towards the things that are complicated, but the areas that maybe we just kind of blindly had people interacting with customers that wasn't necessarily a value add, we can now cut those out and give the customers an opportunity to, in many cases, interact in a way that they wanted to.